we started a long while ago working with actors. And I was working with a great guy called Mark Huggins. And we started to play with this concept of how do you have conversations using the actors for people to try different ways of working those conversations. And therefore we used Whose Line Is It Anyway, which if you're familiar with a comedy show, where the comedians are interacting with the audience, they're getting themes. And we thought, so how would we get two actors up front and give the audience a remote control to have that conversation? So that's exactly what we did. We created something called Forum Theatre. Two actors are sat up front. We've got a script for them for about 3 minutes. And one of those seats is what we call the fixed seat, which is the conversation you're going to have. So if you're coaching, this would be the coachee. If you are dealing with a tough CEO, the fixed seat would be the CEO. The other seat would be what we call the hot seat, which is the person would be able to get in and out from the audience and take over. So the aim is that the actor eventually would remove out of that seat and the audience would take over. So we would have the 3-minute vignette or scenario at the beginning where the audience would see a mixture of good and bad from the hot seat in terms of starting that conversation. And at the end, we'd take a timeout and we'd ask the audience, so what do you like and what would you change? And they'd have to give feedback to the hot seat actor. And we'd ask them for 3 things. And they say, okay, what are the 3 things you would change? It might be eye contact, or it might be having a clearer agenda, or it might be that they need to raise their voice, they're being quiet or hesitant. And then we get the actors to replay the scene with the 3 things dialed up, amplified. And at that point, we'd say to the audience, you've got a remote control now. You can take over the conversation at any time. And what they had then was permission to stop it. So the actors would start and the actors would actually dial it up. So it was pretty obvious they were going to do it badly. So if it's eye contact, they'd be staring into the camera and into the person's eyes. If they were doing something like raising the voice, they were shouting almost to do it. And the audience just naturally started laughing, paused and said, no, I didn't say that. Well, you said raise the voice. The actors would interact. And it became a really nice way for people to say, look, let me show you, or we get them to come into the seat. So the audience would come in and start to have that conversation. So you could apply that to everything. So if you think about the biggest issue is not about knowing it, it's about doing it and about feeling what it feels like in that moment. And that's a playground.